strange thing happens when people get what they want. The promotion arrives. The new car is parked in the driveway. The bank account finally reaches the number they dreamed about. For a few days they feel victorious. Then life quietly returns to normal, and they begin wanting something else. Most people barely notice this pattern. Arthur Schopenhauer became obsessed with it, because if success cannot satisfy us, what exactly are we spending our lives chasing? His answer was disturbing. He believed human beings are trapped inside a machine designed to keep them wanting. A machine that rewards desire just enough to keep it alive and punishes satisfaction by turning it into boredom. Schopenhauer called this machine the will to live, a blind, universal force that dictates our behavior, enslaving us without our knowledge. It drives us to chase, consume, and compete, not for our benefit, but for its own survival. But Schopenhauer was not merely a philosopher of doom. In his work, Aphorisms on the Wisdom of Life, he outlines the surest path to a peaceful existence. He presents a fundamental division of three aspects that decide our fate. The first is what someone is, their personality, intellect, character, and health. The second is what someone has, their material possessions and wealth. And the third is how someone stands in the estimation of others, their status, reputation, and honor. By exploring these three aspects, we can learn how to shield our minds from the pain of existence. 1. What someone is the primary key. Schopenhauer concludes that what someone is predominantly decides the quality of our well-being. Within your personality hides the key to making life less miserable. Who we are determines the lens through which we experience the outside world. All our possessions, wealth, and standing with others are subservient to how we position ourselves internally. If a man is internally poor, empty, and dull, no amount of external wealth can make him happy. Schopenhauer praises a rare quality. He calls it the genial flow of good spirits. This is the capacity of simply being happy and cheerful for no other reason than being alive. According to Schopenhauer, health is the most significant contributor to this. If you feel good mentally and physically, the most simple things become pleasurable. Furthermore, doing what fits our personality will smooth the way for contentment. Your individuality accompanies you always and everywhere, coloring all your experiences. In every kind of enjoyment, the pleasure depends principally upon the man himself. 2. The trap and true value of wealth. If Schopenhauer were to witness today's mass consumerism, he would shake his head in disapproval. We buy things because we think material possessions will make us happy, but accumulating possessions is merely a temporary anesthesia, a way to numb our inner boredom and lack. Measuring happiness only by what we possess is futile because we expect more as soon as we acquire it. We subject ourselves to a law of diminishing returns. Our latest purchase quickly leaves us unsatisfied. The best use of money is to buy your financial independence, so you are the master of your own time. It functions as a bulwark against misfortunes, a shield to protect you from the evils of the world. It is not a scoreboard to show off to the crowd. If you treat it as a shield, it brings peace. If you treat it as a scoreboard, it brings misery. 3. The clacking of tongues. Most people regard other people's opinions as highly significant in deciding how they live. Schopenhauer noted that we are like cats inevitably purring when someone pets us. We worry about what others think, even people we do not personally know. Marcus Aurelius called this desperate pursuit the clacking of tongues, the frantic search for public approval. Schopenhauer saw this obsession with reputation as a major weakness that destroys our true happiness. The content of most people's minds is superficial, their ideas narrow, and their judgments mean. Knowing this, the most rational stance to take is complete indifference. Every man's chief and real existence is in his own skin and not in other people's opinions. Our health, capacity, and close relationships are 100 times more important than what others think. Do not trade the reality of your own skin for the illusion of their approval. Let the tongues clack while you remain secure in your own fortress. 4. The pendulum of desire. Midnight. You are lying in bed scrolling endlessly through short-form videos on your phone. Every swipe of your thumb is a micro-desire demanding a new hit of dopamine. If the video fails to stimulate, you feel instant boredom. If it satisfies, the pleasure lasts exactly 3 seconds. You swipe again and again and again. Every swipe feeds the beast inside you, but it is never full. Schopenhauer called this beast the will to live, a blind force driving us to survive, consume, and reproduce. It is a hunger that can never be satisfied. The moment one desire is met, another takes its place, like a hydra growing new heads. What you are experiencing in bed at midnight is the entire mechanism of human suffering compressed into your palm. Life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. You are caught between two fires: the pain of wanting what you lack and the boredom of having what you do not need. Every swipe feeds the will, making it stronger and hungrier. You grow numb, needing stronger and more extreme stimuli to feel anything at all. To escape this pendulum, you must do the exact opposite. Put the phone down, not because you have seen enough, but because you realize you never will. You must learn to observe the hunger without feeding it. You must step off the treadmill of endless consumption. 5. Cultivating inward wealth. Two passengers sit side by side on a delayed subway train. The signal is dead. No Wi-Fi, no 4G, not a single bar. The first passenger checks his dead screen frantically, sighing, sweating eyes locked on a spinning icon that leads nowhere. He fidgets like an addict in withdrawal, because in essence that is exactly what he is. The second passenger simply closes her eyes. In her mind, a scene for the story she is writing takes shape. Characters, setting, conflict. She does not need the signal, because her inner world is rich enough to fill every minute. This is what Schopenhauer called inward wealth, the richness of the mind. He argued that the value of life is determined by the quality of your own mind. A person with a rich inner world is never truly bored, even in complete isolation. But a person with an empty mind is at the mercy of external circumstances, needing constant noise. The first passenger is a slave dependent on external stimulation to survive each minute. The second is a queen self-sufficient from the resources within. In 1665, the Great Plague forced Cambridge to close, and Isaac Newton was sent home alone. No colleagues, no lectures, no social obligations. He lived 18 months in absolute silence. In that silence, he invented calculus, discovered the laws of gravity, and decoded light. Newton did not need society. Solitude gave him everything. When you rely on external things for happiness, you build your house on sand. The wealth of your mind is the only asset that remains when everything else is stripped away. Therefore, the wise man invests his energy in cultivating his intellect, his imagination, and his character. 6. Aesthetic contemplation. One evening, you are exhausted from work. Your mind is still racing with deadlines, emails, and meetings. The will is still screaming inside you. You decide to turn off your phone, sit down in front of a record player, and drop the needle. Chopin's nocturnes fill the room, and something strange happens. The relentless demands of life suddenly cease to exist. You stop thinking about tomorrow. You stop worrying about today. For those 40 minutes, your striving mind is quieted entirely. Schopenhauer called this state aesthetic contemplation. The moment we step off the treadmill of desire, when we look at a beautiful painting or listen to a profound symphony, the will falls silent. We stop looking at the world as something to use or fear. We become pure subjects of knowing, free from the will. This is why Schopenhauer loved music above all other arts. He believed music is a direct expression of the will itself, bypassing the intellect and striking the soul directly. Schopenhauer himself played the flute every afternoon to quiet the will within. He did not play for an audience. He played for his own peace. Just as you sit before the record player that evening, you do not listen to impress anyone, but because your soul needs rest. Art is not a luxury, it is a therapeutic necessity. It is a sanctuary where the soul can rest. 7. The power of compassion. You are sitting in the office, and you discover that your rival colleague has just made a critical error, an error that could cost him his job. What is your first instinct? Expose it. Climb the ladder on his spine. This is the natural reaction. Because we see ourselves as isolated individuals locked in a fierce competition, we think our happiness can be built on the suffering of others. But Schopenhauer says, this separateness is an illusion. We are all expressions of the same underlying will to live, and when you realize that you do something different, you quietly pull him aside and help him fix the mistake. Not because you are weak, but because you realize you are not enemies. You are fellow sufferers trying to survive in the same demanding machine. Schopenhauer called this mitleid suffering, with the foundation of all true morality. And the remarkable thing is, when you step out of your narrow ego, the heavy burden of your own anxiety begins to lighten. You realize the beggar on the street in different circumstances is you. Your vision expands, from the small personal drama to the collective experience of humanity. Compassion quietens the ego, bringing a profound sense of peace. 8. The practical way out. The surest remedy not to be too unhappy is to stop desiring to be very happy. Focus your energy on avoiding pain rather than chasing pleasure. Schopenhauer saw this principle lived out by monks and saints who conquered their own desires. For the average person, complete asceticism is almost impossible. But we can apply it in smaller ways. Every time you willingly say no to a micro-craving, you weaken the grip of the will. Replace lower pleasures, endless scrolling, competitive gaming, and social drama with higher ones. Reading, meditation, philosophy, poetry, and music do not require wealth, status, or anyone's approval. They do not lead to the exhaustion of overindulgence or the pain of regret. Instead, they slowly fortify your inner world. They provide consolation amidst an existence characterized by pain. Find contentment in durable, simple routines that keep you grounded and safe. Warm yourself by the fire of human connection, but do not let it burn you. Conclusion: how to protect your mind. 1. Lower your expectations of the world to eliminate disappointment. 2. Focus on what you are, your health and intellect, rather than what you have. 3. Treat money as a shield against misfortune, not a tool for display. 4. Cultivate indifference toward the opinions of others and ignore the clacking of tongues. 5. Engage in the higher pleasures of sensibility, reading, philosophy, and music. 6. Practice compassion to dissolve the selfish anxiety of the ego. You are the master of your inner world. Do not let the outer world dictate your peace. Find your silence. Build your fortress. If you want to explore the deep psychology and philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, subscribe now. Understand the nature of life. Take back control of your mind.